But on that first call, what we've done is just understand what their situation is, understand price flexibility. Then we're going to go back and now we're really going to do our research, knowing what the flexibility is there, and finally then figure out what our end number is going to be, to then call them back on a second call and then be able to see if it's a property we can do something with.
What's up, y'all? You're listening to the Carrot Cast podcast, the podcast with a funny name but a big mission. We help thousands of real estate investors and agents grow rock-solid mindsets, do better marketing so that you can build a business of freedom and impact. I'm your host, Trevor Mock. Let's dive into today's episode. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the next episode of the Carrot Cast. And I've got a longtime friend, colleague, but first-time Carrot Cast guest. And I don't know why it took me so long, Mr. Cris Chico, but I'm going to introduce you guys to our guest here in a bit. I'm outside right now at the house, and it actually feels pretty good. So got some fresh air out here, got the mountains behind us, which is going to be a blast. But guys, before I dive in and introduce our guest today, I want to talk about a couple things that really are insanely timely right now. And these are some of the topics we're going to dive into deep in today's episode of the Carrot Cast. One trend that we've seen a lot in the last 2-3 years, and we've been driving big parts of that trend in some areas, especially the online side, is how do you broaden out to go to multiple markets? Oftentimes when you're an investor, especially, agents tend to stay in the one market. But if you're an investor or a hybrid agent investor, oftentimes you'll want to broaden out from just the city that you're working in as a wholesaler, or you'll go out to the region or the whole state, or sometimes even nationally. And we have a lot of clients that are using Carrot to get leads in every single state in the country or just part of the region that they're in. And we've got an amazing guest on today that is doing just that and teaching tons of Carrot customers and other investors how to do the same thing using 100% online marketing. So I want to introduce none other than Cris Chico to the Carrot Cast, man. Welcome on the call.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and it took a while to get here, even though we've known each other for a while, but we were just making sure that the stew was ready to be served, and here I am with you.
That's right, man. Well, I want you to introduce yourself to people who haven't heard of you. But before I do, I want people to write this down. So I want you guys to make a note if you're not driving, make a mental note if you are driving. Go to YouTube and look up his name. So it's Cris Chico, Chico. You got an amazing YouTube channel, man. I always enjoy watching your videos because it's not just about investing. It's not just about online marketing. It covers a whole array of topics. It's always fun watching your videos. So guys, first of all, hit pause on this podcast. Go to YouTube if you're not already there. Look up Cris Chico, Cris Chico, and then subscribe to his channel because you're going to get a lot of amazing stuff over there. So hit pause, subscribe, come back, and now we're going to dive in. So, Cris, why don't you introduce to people who might not know who you are, or maybe have heard of you but not familiar with everything that you do. Who are you, first of all? Kind of what is your specialty now? Then we're going to dive into some of your backstory because we've known each other and of each other for probably almost a decade, maybe. But I'm pumped to get to know you even better moving forward. But who are you? What do you do right now?
Yeah. So again, my name is Cris Chico, and I live here in South Florida, the land of the palm trees, with myself, my wife, and my 2 daughters. And right now, what we're helping real estate investors with is nationwide wholesaling. So how to go out and move away from your local market, and not even virtual, where you're selecting a market outside of your main market, but just taking and doing deals all across the country, all across the USA. So rather than you selecting a market, we allow the marketing to select where we do deals in. And the principal way that we do that is through digital marketing. So we do that with Facebook ads and with Google pay-per-click. And we're teaching real estate investors how to do that so that they can go ahead and get leads from all over the country.
And dude, one thing when we were connecting a couple of weeks ago, and we're going to dive into this pretty darn deeply, guys, with y'all. We might even show some examples of some things. I've got a page up on the Carrot site that if it comes up, we can even show some examples of that. But you guys are able to get leads at such a lower cost when you go national. And that's one thing that a lot of people, they'll say, well, shoot, and Google ads or Facebook ads are too expensive. And oftentimes if you're in just one local market running Google ads, yeah, your ads are going to be more expensive. But if you broaden out to the whole state or the region, or in this case, nationally, there's some things with the Google algorithm that actually end up getting leads at a far lower cost. You specialize in Facebook ads. So we're going to dive into those things as well, guys. So if you have that preconception that I heard from other people that it's expensive or hard, that's one of the benefits of this national strategy. And then we're going to dive in how Cris does it virtually, how he is wholesaling all across the country virtually without having to actually walk in and see those houses. Before we dive into that though, Cris, let's go all the way back, man. So I know you've been an investor for a long time, and let's kind of start there. What got you into the into the investment world way back when, and how have you made the transition to the national focus?
Yeah, so I initially started as a real estate agent back in 1990. Got my real estate license. Was horrible as a real estate agent. Couldn't make any money, and then I got lucky in that I got an opportunity to help right around the year 1998 or so. I got a gig with a bank as an agent, helping them sell their foreclosed properties. So whenever a bank took a property, foreclosed on it, I was what's called an REO agent. And I was doing quite a bit of volume with them. And then I had a guy that was buying most of my properties as an investor. And then he gave me the opportunity and said, hey, why don't you come work for me and I'll show you the ropes. So I was very lucky because I went to work for him. I got an opportunity to help him do 50 deals. Me personally, help him do 50 deals. Which that if you do 50 deals, that means you looked at a lot of other deals, right, to get to those 50. So that means you had a lot of repetitions in terms of doing deals. So that got me tremendous experience. And then what happened is that the bank at the time, the market in South Florida was going up. Prices were going up. So that means that then if somebody was facing foreclosure, they had the avenue to then be able to sell that property in the open market because they still had margin between their mortgage and what the market was. So we were seeing, when I went to work for him, we were buying properties mostly from REO brokers. And so I saw that the inventory was declining. And I thought to myself, I wonder if I could go out and find properties from regular homeowners. And at the time, nobody was doing direct mail. Like, everybody has it easy now because you can go on so many tools. When I started with direct mail back in the day, just to give you context, there was no place to get data. So data was horribly difficult to get. There was no place to print postcards. Yep. So it took an obstacle course to find somebody to print the postcards and to do all that. Then what ended up happening is that I had an idea, which is commonplace now, that, what happened is I started to send out postcards, but I wasn't getting anywhere with them. And so I came up with a book. I got a book from Dan Kennedy, The Ultimate Sales Letter. And from that book, I learned how to write good advertisements. Back then there was no CRM. So literally I had a guy that I had hired, and his whole job was that when the mail came in on Mondays, he would be sitting there with a notebook and he would handwrite and all the messages. And then eventually somebody else would come in and pick up the notebook so that they could call the sellers. Oh, wow. So that's how it was, right? And so I was doing that, and then ended up being that, back then, right now you have a lot of agents, a lot of real estate investors that have teams and so on. But back then, that wasn't something that was commonplace. But, real estate agents had been building teams in a while. And I ended up just being overwhelmed. So I got a couple buddies of mine and said, hey, you want to make some money? Because I can do the marketing and I can teach you how to do the deals. So I had acquisitions people before anybody would call them acquisitions people. And then, so I was doing that, and everything was working great. And I had this idea that, hey, I wonder if, there's other markets all over the country. I wonder if I could take what I do and do it in other markets. And so I started to test direct mail in other markets, and we were getting, calls and everything else was working, but I couldn't figure out how to do the buyers. And so I said, I know that we target absentee owners that have been living at the property for a long time, but, there's absentee owners that just bought the property. Yep. And so back then, nobody was doing squeeze pages. So I had this idea of, hey, putting a postcard, putting a squeeze page with hand coded with HTML, because none of this, it's easy now, but it was difficult back then. And next thing you know, I was going out in all these different markets and building lists of buyers, like really easy, because nobody's seen a squeeze page before, right? No. So, and so that's how the whole virtual wholesaling started, because it was, I was doing virtual wholesaling around 2006-ish. Yep. That's kind of when I started. And it was around 2007 where I coined the term virtual wholesaling, because I'm referred to as the godfather of virtual wholesaling.
Yep.
And, back then, there was no Google Street View. Like
No.
there was no, there was finding somebody on Craigslist who happened to own the digital camera, who happened to know what the hell to do with the digital camera and how to get you the picture. So, you guys have it a lot easy right now, compared to what we had it. And, was doing great with the postcards. And then the postcards, started not to work. And so I had this crazy idea of what some of you may have already seen or have used before. They're called the blind copy postcards.
Yep.
So that was before skip tracing. There was no way to go skip tracing. So I had the crazy idea of, what, if I could only get the seller's phone numbers, then we would just call everybody who called in. So I created these postcards that were like the third notice, final notice, very aggressive. I always say that you can always tell when a postcard might be good when you're afraid to mail it.
Yeah.
I was very afraid. And I mailed that postcard and we would get like a 20-30% response rate, people calling into the system. We got a lot of angry calls.
Yeah.
But we did get a lot of deals from that because all we would do is we would just call everybody back. So that was I call it skip tracing 0.5.
Yeah, dude. Right? It's inbound skip tracing. They're coming,
inbound skip tracing.
You're just capturing the phone numbers then, saying, hey, if they called back, this must show either that they're mad and they want off the list or that they're motivated and they have some sort of a deal. So that would create your phone number list and you would call them back.
The thought process was that if I've got a lot of other people whose postcards have been sent to this homeowner, how am I going to stand out? And I said, well, if we could somehow getting them on the phone, that would be great. And so I figured that's how that came about. So we were doing that for a while. And again, things started to change. More and more people came into the business. Lists were more ready, available. People were doing more direct mail. And, I started to think, okay, what else is next? And, I thought about SEO, but I'm an impatient guy. So I thought, no, that's not going to work for me. People were already doing PPC and I know the cost per lead was high. And I had this crazy idea that said, hey, maybe we could do something on Facebook. And then I was thinking, well, will our property owners be on Facebook? And then I think one day my mom said that she was now on the internet. And what do you mean you're on the internet? She's like, well, I'm on Facebook. And I was like, Mom, that's Facebook. That's not the internet. But she thought it was the internet. And she's like pretty old. So I'm like, hell, if she's on there, maybe some of these sellers are. And so then I ended up starting, Facebook ads. Through trial and error, what I ended up doing is at that time, this doesn't work now, but at that time I thought, well, when we were doing things with the direct mail, we were targeting zip codes and we were customizing the postcards. So I had an idea of, well, what if we customize the ads so that they're specific to every single zip code that we're targeting? Because back then, Facebook allowed zip code targeting. So I did that, and all of a sudden, everything started to work amazingly well. And we were getting leads, and we were getting our client. We were teaching that, and so it was around 2006 where I first launched my course around that. But then Facebook, as Facebook does, when they always change a lot of things, right? The only constant thing with Facebook is change. That's it.
Oh yeah. So
they decided to do away with zip code targeting, and so I was trying to figure out a way to make it work. And, with just targeting, because now they only allow the 25-mile radius, which is a pretty big radius for most areas. And then one day I forgot to set the targeting on a campaign and I was getting leads. Leads were coming in and I was like, oh my God, I cracked the code on this thing. And then I realized, wait, these leads are not even in my local area. Then I realized that, oh my gosh, I forgot to set the campaign. But then I was like, holy cow, I don't realize that you can get leads so cheap if you just widen the area. So that's how that got started. And then little by little, just transitioned to now we only run digital marketing. We only run ads in a nationwide area. And we can get into the specifics, cost per lead and everything else. But right now, that's how we transition. So, my journey has been a journey of iteration and just, kind of pivoting on things, et cetera. And that's how we got here today.
Dude, there's so many cool things I want to unpack there. One thing that we are going to touch on and dig in, because you guys are probably asking the same question, y'all, is, once again, how did you make that transition from just being there in Tampa to national? What do the deals look like? How do you find the boots on the ground? Things like that. But the big thing, guys, I want you guys to recognize on Chris's story is he it wasn't that he didn't face challenges. Like there was like 7 or 8 challenges there, 7 or 8 walls that Cris could have said, this is too hard, I'm not going to do it. Right. And we can like buzz through some of them really fast. Right. One of them was, there was no CRM. So they had a guy literally take the voicemails, write them down, hand them to someone else. So if you're an investor or an agent going, I need to get the CRM set up. No, you need to get leads coming in. And then when you have so many leads that you can't handle manually or on your whiteboard or whatever it is, then get it on CRM possibly, right? But get some leads coming in. And then there's just a series of other things, right? It's like, well, shoot, how do I find the boots on the ground? Because there's no Google Street View. And I go to Craigslist and see if I can find some people. And the cool thing is, guys, as you go through and heard Chris's story, there's so many things that he had to do that are so much easier today that eliminate 90% of all the excuses, to where most of the excuses are just right here now. It's a limiting belief for some reason that we may have to take the next step. And so, guys, you didn't have it. You didn't have to go through the pioneering that Cris had to go through with every one of those steps. We're going to lay out for you what you can do so you can learn from Cris and then scale it up. And Cris has amazing training as well. We'll point you guys towards what that training is and where you can find it. Lots of our clients go through and use this training to scale things up, which I love. Dude, Cris, let's kind of break down the virtual wholesaling on the national basis now. So I'd like to start kind of business model first for people so they can kind of break down the business model in their mind. And then we'll dive into the marketing part of it to get leads, then the disposition part of it on the other side, if you're cool with that. So high level business model, your marketing to get seller leads. And then once again, on the other end, you're wholesaling those deals. We'll touch on the marketing part first, but what are you seeing on average with, let's say average profit per deal with your deals? Of course, market by market, I'm sure it differs, but what are you seeing on average profit per deal going national, virtual wholesaling versus just focusing locally? Are you going to get a higher profit per deal locally because you're there, or are you getting higher profit per deal or lower profit per deal going national because you have a partner in those?
No, we don't have partners, so we're always trying to source the buyers directly, so that way we don't have to split the deal. Good. It very much depends on the town. So, for example, we're doing a deal in Wingham, Georgia. That's a small deal. I think it's just 7,000, but it's a town with a population of under 20,000 people. So, in that town, and the property is worth, say 60, 65,000, there's, it's difficult to make, a $15,000 or $20,000 sign-in fee. Yeah. We have another deal that we have in California that is Fillmore. I think that's a town. I can't forget now. It was just from yesterday. And on that one there, I think it looks like we might make 15K on it. Cool. So, on average, I would say whenever I'm dealing with students, especially in the nationwide model, because as you're starting out, target is 10K. But as you get better at the disposition and get better at the sourcing of buyers, then you start increasing the margins, just because now in the beginning, there's a lot to take in, because you're analyzing properties in towns that likely you never heard of that town or city until you got the lead. So you have no data whatsoever. And then now, once you get the deal, there's positive and negative. Once you get the deal, unlike a local model where you might have a group of investors that you just send deals to, you now have to go source. Now you've got a sprint of 48 to 72 hours of finding the legitimate buyers in that marketplace. So as you get better at that, and as efficiency increases, then you start to see the assignments, go higher. But cool. I'd say that in general, 10 to 15 is a target range on the assignments.
Dude, so I love it. So as far as volume goes, would someone want to move towards virtual wholesaling on a national basis for a volume play, i.e., I can get more deals, or is there some other benefits that you guys see by going national on the virtual wholesaling side versus just local?
Well, the benefit, first of all, the nationwide model, typically, if you're somebody that's looking to buy properties and you're looking to buy rental properties in your local area, or you're doing rehabbing, then it may not be the ideal model, right? The ideal model would be for if you're doing wholesaling, and so it doesn't really matter to you where you do the deals. I always say Bank of America never cares where you got your money. They just care that you have some to deposit, right? That's right. That's all they care about. Now I lost my train of thought. Get me back to your question, because I went on a side thing, and I want to make sure I answer it correctly.
Yeah, the question was so people can know that the main benefits of going national with their wholesaling. There's the volume play that you have more markets to play in. Are there any other benefits that people?
Yeah, the benefits are a lower cost per lead.
Okay.
All right, number one, a greater number of opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, cost per lead. If I target just Florida in Facebook ads, I'm dealing with about $65 per lead.
Yep.
If I try and target Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach, meaning or even Dade County, my cost per lead is going to go up into $100+. However, if I target nationwide, I'm getting leads somewhere between $15 to $20 a lead. Now, this is a lead on Facebook that has the way we're collecting leads. We're asking for a lot of information up front. So we're asking for, repairs, condition, who's occupying the property, what price they're asking. So it's a lead that isn't just somebody who filled out an email and then didn't really want to sell. Like, unless they're sleepwalking and going through and filling out forms on random on people's websites, they're legitimately interested. Yep. So we're getting leads at $20 per lead. And I'm a big fan of, if you're here as a beginning investor, the biggest problem I see is you get stuck in education. And really what you need is a baseline of education and more repetition. Because no matter how much of a script I give you or training I can give you on how to analyze and talk to sellers and analyze properties, nothing takes the place of the actual doing of it, the repetition of it. So to me, the reason I like this is because if you're brand new, if you spend, a $20 a lead, you can get a very large number of leads for a relatively low price of property owners that are interested in selling their property. And they know that we're an investor. So they know that, hey, we're looking to buy properties at a discount. But now you have a lot of opportunities to work. And so to me, I think that's the benefit. And obviously, I always love inbound lead generation because you're dealing with somebody who's raised their hands and said, yes, I'm interested in talking to you. So right off the bat, you're dealing with a much more friendly environment in terms of having a conversation with the property owner. And the last but not least, from the benefits would be that you're no longer bounded to your local marketplace where you're getting leads everywhere. And so, if your market takes a hit or you're having difficulties because there's a lot of competition, you don't have that with a nationwide model because, people are coming in. And then the last thing I would say is just when you have the ads humming, when you have a lead and that's the only lead you've gotten in a couple of days, like there's a lot of pressure for you to perform on that lead and to make it work. Yep. But if you got 3 or 4 leads today and tomorrow another 3 or 4 are going to come, yep, then it's a lot easier to be trying to do this business in that environment.
Dude, this is good, man. So I want to break down some of the numbers here in a bit. You've been talking about the lead numbers. Before we do, let's imagine someone launches this. They launch a Facebook campaign nationally. They get a phone call. How does that go down now? Are you fully negotiating over the phone, making the offers on the phone, closing it on the phone? Kind of what's the process? Let's say a phone call comes in or an online web submit comes in. What do people do next?
Yeah, so it's always over the phone, and we're always trying to do it in two calls. Mm-hmm. So if you're calling me, I would say, hey, Trevor, this is Chris from National Property Buyer. I saw you filled out our form on Facebook. You saw our post on Facebook. You filled out the form requesting an offer on your property. Does that ring a bell? You say, yes, it does. Mm-hmm. I say, okay, great, terrific. Well, if you have a few minutes left to just take opportunity to chat with you about the property and see if it might be one that we can make you an offer on. Then what we do, this is what we teach our students. On the first call, you've got to make an offer. Even though if you know nothing about the property, you can quickly look on Zillow, and Zillow's accuracy is very much dependent on activity. Mm. So the first thing you want to do when a lead comes in is it a viable lead? And by viable lead is you look on Zillow and you look, even if it's a small town, you're going to see a lot of red dots if it's a viable area because there's a lot of properties active. Then you turn the switch and you say, I want to see what sold in the last 6 months. And you see activity. Okay, there's viability, but there's also accuracy, meaning that Zillow is creating their estimate based on transactions, the number of transactions.
Gotcha.
So that means that if you do have transactions, that means whatever numbers on Zillow is somewhat accurate. Doesn't mean all the time, but at least something that we can go on. And so let's say that the property you calling in and you might say you want 120,000. I see that Zillow has it for 150. We always tell our students, you're always going to make an offer in the first call. And it's not even a direct offer. It's just, hey, Trevor, so typically in that market, houses around your size, we're typically paying around, 85,000 or so, 90,000. I know you said that you were looking for 120. would you consider 90? You're going to say no. The first offer is always no. You're never looking for that property owner to accept that offer. You're looking to gauge to see how much flexibility they have on the price. So you might say, no, I can't do that. 90 is too low. And again, the way I phrase that, I say, no, I completely understand. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the research, take it to underwriting, and then see what the best we can do. I was just talking with you here just based on some numbers. I know that, though, however, 120 is probably going to be a bit much for them. And I know you said the 90 was too low. Let me ask you this. When we buy the property, we can pay cash, pay all closing costs, etc. What could you do on the price if we can make this all work for you? And you might say, well, the best I could do is 110. Okay. And so then I would say, that I appreciate you, first of all, Trevor, for thinking about it and giving me the opportunity to buy the home and considering it. And so let me do this. Let me see what I can do. And let me go back to underwriting and see what I can figure out in terms of price. I know you said 110, and I appreciate you doing that. Let me ask you this. I mean, if I can potentially get something at 105 or so, is that something you would consider? And so if you notice on that first call, we're not really saying I'm going to make you this offer. I'm feeling out to see what the flexibility on price. And also the other thing I want to bring up with a lot of these leads, they're people that are living at the property. So there's a very important tip. We want to be able to know what the pain points are. We find that a big pain point for people that are living at the property is that they need their money to move out. And so we ask him, if I would ask Trevor, let me ask you a question. Typically, when we buy a property, when anybody buys a property from at the day of closing, where you go to the title company, you pick up your check and your money, you're also handing over the keys. That means you're out of the property. Is that something that is okay with you? Or do you feel that you need some time in order to move out of the property? Gotcha. Many times they'll say, I could use a couple of weeks. Yep. But guess what? That's one of our benefits. So when I go back and I'm working through that offer and working through the benefits, when presenting that final offer, I would say, Trevor, one of the things that we can do for you, I talk with underwriting, we can go ahead and accommodate you and allow you to stay at the property for 2 weeks afterwards. That way you can get your funds. And then many times that's the thing that pushes them over the edge. Yep. But on that first call, what we've done is just understand what their situation is, understand price flexibility. And then at that point, then we're going to go back and now we're really going to do our research, knowing what the flexibility is there. And finally, then figure out what our end number is going to be, to then call them back on a second call and then be able to see if it's a property we can do something with. Gotcha. And so that's the general flow of how things work when we're dealing with these leads.
Dude, so what do you, and that was an amazing breakdown. Thank you. What do you do with repairs and stuff? Because most of the sellers might not be fully honest on that it needs a brand new roof or there's a hole in this wall, or what do you do with repairs and repair estimates?
Well, what I typically find is that it depends on the property, right? So it's a judgment call. If you are dealing with a property that the end value is $75,000, that's typically like a rental grade property. So if somebody's living in there, you kind of know and you expect that the property and the comps are going to be about the same, because the buyer pool that buys those properties is expecting something. If we're dealing with a property that is, say, worth 180, 185, and we quickly look at the Zillow comps and we see that, hey, all these houses at 185 are fixed up. Now we have a gauge to know that, okay, 185 is fixed up. Yeah. And then we get a gauge from them. The questions are, so Trevor, tell me about the property on a scale from 1 to 10. What do you think? And you might say a 7. Okay, well, let me ask you a couple other questions. How old is the roof? How old is the bathrooms and everything else? And we start to develop a profile of what we feel are the repairs, but we don't really estimate repairs. Yeah. The objective is when we're looking at the final decision, and if we're looking to sell this property to an investor, we have to understand, what does the investor want? If it's a rental property or if it's a fix and flip. And the goal is for us to offer the best absolute deal in that marketplace. Because if an investor's out there looking for deals, they can just go on the MLS and Zillow and pick a deal just like yours. That ain't going to fly. Yeah. But if, say, if you can get that property at 75, and the cheapest property in that area as a 3-1 is $125 on the market right now. Mm-hmm. You know what? Potentially, I think we might have something here that makes sense for an investor because it's enough of a spread. Gotcha. Then, we would then show the property, and when we work with the buyers, they're going to tell us, what the repairs are. The only time that it becomes problematic is when you have a property and you speak with an owner and they tell you that, the property's been vacant for 2 years. Nobody's been living there. Now you start to feel like, there's probably going to be a problem here and we got to dig a little bit further. And then what we do, just to go back, the way we determine kind of the general condition is that we get pictures from the seller. So if you and I agree on price, in that agreement there's a couple of things. We include the contract. We include a cover page. We include a couple of, benefit pages. Here's some of the benefits of dealing with a real estate investor. Because a quick tip is I see property owners all the time. They're like, oh, well, I got an agreement from another real estate investor. So, okay, send me what they send you. And it's like this very, scribbled piece of paper, looks very unprofessional. So we send them, paperwork with logos and stuff like that. But also included in there is a document that says, hey, we need photos of the property in order to expedite the whole process of closing. And here's how to take the photos. Here's an email address to send the photos. Here's what we need. And so then they will go ahead and send us the photos. And we do that after the fact, not before, because if you tell the seller, oh, I need photos, and you think you have a deal, get the deal signed up first, because you could create unnecessarily an obstacle course for the seller to get you photos, and somebody else might come in and take the deal from you if you don't have it on the contract.
Dude, this is so good, man. Because guys, I hope you guys are writing notes down, because Cris is basically walking through step by step. And I know Cris goes into way more detail in his YouTube videos and his training. So we'll point you guys towards that here towards the end. So Cris, let's say you've got the contract now, and they feel good about the deal. What do they now do to find the buyer? And then after that, guys and gals, you guys are probably wondering, how does the marketing work? Then we're going to talk about the Facebook ad part of it and some of the nuances with that. We're doing some tests to a page right now, modeled after some of the things that Cris is using on the Facebook side on a Carrot site, and it's working really, really well. So if we have time, I might even show a brief glimpse of that too. But let's talk about the buyer now. So you've got it under contract. Now, how do they find those buyers if they're not in that area?
So I look at it from a tier, from the most probability to the least probability. So in the beginning, right, you got the deal on the contract. The first thing you need to do as quickly as possible is to determine if this is a deal that you think is a deal or not, right? And so the best way to find that is to talk to investors to get input, right? Especially buyers in the area. So we use a couple of different tools. One tool that we use is a tool called Propelio, which has a really good, I don't use it for anything else other than for buyers. You type in the property address, you click on the cash buyer tab, and you click on the circumference. And then you're able then now it'll give you a listing of all the buyers that have purchased. Typically, you'd want to look at that first before you tie the property up, because you want to make sure that there is market viability. And so let's say that it comes up with 20 buyers. So now I'm going to go ahead, and it's a combination of individuals and also corporations. I'm going to take the corporations, and then I'm going to go to, say, open corporates. Or what I would do is Google the corporation, open corporates will show up. And then you have to do a little bit of investigative research in order to find who those buyers are. You can search for them on Facebook, find their page, etc. And what you want to do is you want to get on the phone with those buyers and say, hey, it looks like you bought this property. I'm a real estate investor, wholesaler. I have a property. I have a contract that I'm looking to assign on the property. Would you be interested in more? And then begin that dialogue with them. That's one way. All right. Now, one thing is this: if you're in a small town and you don't find anything in terms of buyers, then what you have to do is you have to figure out where that buyer is going to come from. So generally speaking, we're looking at 30 minutes. So let's say you find a deal and it's in a very small market. Then what you're going to do is, if you can't find buyers in the software initially, and we use another tool called Investor Fuel. I'm sorry, that's Mike Hambright. Investor Lift, investorlift.com. That's another great tool. That one is more for experienced investors. So it depends on your experience level. And so what we do is, then we figure out where's that buyer going to come from. And so let's say that city doesn't have that many buyers, but the next major area is 15 minutes away, right? So what we do is we find a property in that other area, 15 minutes away, use that as a circumference to then get the buyers. Because if the city is there, then the buyer is going to come from somewhere. So so it has to come on from an area. So typically what we find is that we need one metro area that has has a Walmart, has a dollar store, or has a sign of life, right? Within most 30 minutes, preferably 15 minutes is great. And then the other things is that we do is that then we would do another thing that was great, especially in these smaller markets, is Craigslist. Because Craigslist is, in my neck of the woods, Craigslist is horrible, because the minute you post something, 10 minutes later, it's lost because there's so many posts. But in other areas, it's not the same. So then we also use Craigslist. We also use Facebook Marketplace as well in order to find buyers. And then we do try and what we want is we do work with wholesalers, but it's not our first priority because we want to avoid splitting the deal. All right. Yep. But so we wanted to be able to talk directly to a buyer and be able to get that source. So those are kind of like the pecking order of things that we do. And then, again, Propelio is relatively inexpensive. Investor Lift is it's more robust. But either way, those two platforms we have both. We kind of use both. And in any area of the country, we can go in and quickly know what the buyers are, what they're paying, and then we would just get on the phone with them and try to talk to them.
Dude, Cris, there's one thing that's so cool here. So I talk to so many investors who are running PPC, whether it's Google or Facebook, and then they're saying, "Man, I'm getting leads out of my area." As an example, in the market that I'm in with a partner, Louisville. Originally, we were getting some leads, and he would every now and then get one from Florida or from New York because he has a very generic domain name that was starting to pop up in some Google rankings. And same thing, we had messed up some of the targeting at the start with the Google ads, and we were getting some leads from everywhere. Originally, he was throwing them away. Right? It's like, it's not in my pretty little box of Louisville. Right. And lately, and we just closed one in Florida where someone came to the site through a very generic search, and now he's shifting his mindset. And that was a $30,000 profit deal that came from a market that he wasn't in normally. And so what I want you guys and gals to be looking at, if you're an investor, it doesn't matter if this is with Facebook ads or Google ads or even SEO, is stop looking at the leads that aren't in your pretty little box as garbage or as not good. Start looking at them as a deal that you can then go find how to do it using what Cris is teaching. He's got an amazing course to teach you how to do it at a greater detail. Because if you just close one or two of those a year, that could possibly pay for all of your marketing for the rest of the year, instead of just thinking that leads, a trash lead because it's not in your 2 zip codes or whatever. So guys, open up the minds here with this. So let's kind of reverse the start of this now. Let's talk on the marketing side. So, Cris, you focus almost primarily on Facebook ads. Do you do anything else? Or are you doing Google ads too, or just the Facebook side?
Predominantly, we're running mostly Facebook ads. Cool. We recommend when people get started to go with Facebook. And the reason for that is because Facebook is a more forgiving platform. Google is really great Facebook is good at taking your money. If you tell Facebook, I'm going to give you $20 today, they will spend your $20 today. But Google is much better at taking all of your money if you don't know what you're doing. So we prefer people start with Facebook, because you can quickly, you can start the campaign today in the morning and be generating leads right away the same day. And so then once you get that working, then you can move into Google. So that's kind of the order of things that we recommend. Facebook first and then Google second.
Cool. What type of ads are you running on Facebook? And I mean, just kind of briefly describe, if someone were to set up an ad, what type of things should be on the ad? What types of things should be said?
Well, I would say first of all, in terms of ad copy, so image, the creative is the most important thing, right? In terms of ad copy, the creative is the most important thing. We're using images of ugly houses. An image that's working well is if you could imagine a billboard on the side of the highway and it just says, "We buy houses," and it's in yellow. Another thing that works well is also a video of you with your phone and just saying, "Hey, my name is Cris and I buy houses in the area." And if you're, just talking to somebody, the thing that I would suggest to people is don't yell. People yell, "We buy houses cash." And that's all they know how to say. Like, don't do that. If you think about it, how would you talk to somebody that's in front of you, in front of the kitchen table? And you just wanted to explain to them that, look, I buy houses all across the country and I would love to be able to help you. And maybe I can buy yours. We'll have a conversation and then we could make a decision. If it works, if it doesn't, that's okay too. You can say that on video very easily with your phone, and you can just write the copy for that. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, because at the end of the day, it's conversational. That's what I mean by conversational copy. Many times for some of you that are in different niches, like for example, if you're going out and targeting land, which we have people that are doing land and other niches, or maybe pretty houses, you can take your existing copy that you're already using, your postcards and letters, and you can just use that on Facebook. Gotcha. And then use the images. It doesn't have to be that difficult. The benefit that you have is that, you can get some pretty good results without having to be a ninja at any of that stuff when it comes to the Facebook ads.
Dude, so there's one thing that I really want to press into it that you mentioned is don't be kind of the "we buy houses" explanation point guy, right? Because if I'm going to get really deep on marketing and the maturity of a market. There's something from an old copywriter, and you probably Gene Schwartz, I think it was,
Yeah.
where Breakthrough Advertising, I think it was, where he talked about market sophistication. It went from like unaware, which is they're not aware that they even have a problem, that they need to sell the house. And there's aware of, okay, I'm aware that I have a problem. I don't know the solutions yet. And if you think about like the beer market, right? When beer first came out, all they had to do to market beer was literally say beer, like it's cold and come drink the thing.
I got beer.
Yeah, exactly. And then there was maybe 10 different types of beer. Now it's like, well, we have this type and this type. So it was different types. They had to differentiate. And then all of a sudden beer was just, ubiquitous, and they have to come out with something called a unique mechanism to really break through, which is the frost brewed can, which is the whatever liner, the wide mouth thing, the micro brew, right? They're all trying to do these different things to stand out. And if we're looking in the real estate investor market, like you're mentioning, Chris, 20 years ago, however long, 30 years ago, when people started really buying houses, all you had to say was, we will buy your house, because there wasn't a lot of people saying that. And now there's a lot of people with that message, including iBuyers. Now some agents are doing that too, saying, hey, we will buy your house. And so if everyone else is saying that we buy houses message loud and proud, then that's where you switch over to like what Chris was saying, to say, hey, I'm a real person. I'm not going to yell at you anymore through the verbal or through written copy that says we buy houses, explanation, and just really talking to you. Hey, you've got to know that I'll buy your house. So we will say, hey, we do buy houses, and we buy them in your area, and we'll pay cash and we'll close quick. But I'm going to build a personal relationship with you as well to stand out. So that's the
one quick caveat, just to make sure nobody gets into any trouble with Facebook, is Facebook doesn't like you calling out attributes of an individual. So let's say, for example, that I wanted to talk to somebody that was in foreclosure. You can't say in the ad, are you facing foreclosure? Because then it insinuates that Facebook knows something about them that they should know. So you could say, however, my name is Chris, and I buy all types of properties, even properties that are in foreclosure or, et cetera. So I'm kind of saying the same thing, but not I'm saying like, hey, are you behind in your payments? Never want to say that, because that can get you in trouble with Facebook.
Dude, that's good, man. That's a really good tip. I love it. So, dude, you have the ads. One question that pops up in my mind: do you have the same ad running through the whole country, or are you able to kind of split it up and say, hey, these ads over here are going for the Pacific Northwest, and there's going to be a little bit different picture of a property, and these ads down here for Florida, it's a little bit different picture of a property? Or is it the same ad that's going to everyone across the 50 states?
Yeah. Now when you ask me that, I'm like, okay, you make me feel bad, because it's a lot simpler than that. We just run the same ad.
That's
we just
good.
Run the same images everywhere that works. So why mess it? Why mess with it?
And that's what I was hoping to hear, because I could totally picture people saying, do I have to have like 50 different ads? It's cool. It's like one ad set, and you're just saying that the targeting is the whole country. Okay, cool.
Exactly. You're targeting the whole country. 100%.
Awesome. So we were on a call about a month ago, and we were talking about landing pages. And one thing here at Carrot that we'd really focused on over the years is, we do tons and tons of split testing, and we ran tests with landing pages versus what we call the mini site or the authority hub. And in that 2012 through 16 through 17 range, even up into 18, the mini site or the authority hub converted far better than landing pages at that time. And now what we're discovering and talking with you guys and some other agencies that are running traffic for a lot of people, especially on Facebook through mobile, the landing pages are starting to really perform amazingly well, and even outperform the mini site sometimes as well. So Chris, why don't you describe briefly, and we can even provide a screenshot of one of the pages that we have. That's a very simple landing page modeled after one that you showed me. What do they send to, and how does the page kind of look at a high level that you're finding work well through Facebook ads?
Yeah. So if you look at traffic and where it's coming from, the majority of the traffic is through mobile. And, that's how people operate most of the time. They only may sit on the computer at the end of the day, right? When they got nothing else to do, and they're really forced to. So you have to think about it from a mobile first perspective. And what we have found is just, we want to, think about it this way. The ads are running. They're in the grocery store, just checking out their thing. Yeah. They saw the ad, they clicked on it. You've got a split second to get their attention, and enough for them to write down their information, because now they got to go on and pick up their kids, right? That's what we're dealing with. And so, generally then people don't have the time in order to be able to go through all the nooks and crannies of your website. And so what we've figured out is that we just to be hyper-focused on, and now what I'm about to tell you doesn't necessarily work for every strategy. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't work for SEO where somebody's on the computer typing and trying to do research, but it works for what we do, which is to hit a landing page. We got a very small amount of time. And when we need to focus on one action and one button that they need to take, they're not going to be distracted. They input their information. We get it. And now we have the opportunity to now engage with them. We can send them back to our main homepage and they can go through all the nooks and crannies. But what we found is we just keep them focused on, okay, you're here, push the button, enter your information. Now you can go on with the rest of your life. And we're going to go ahead and reach out to you.
Yep. And dude, I'm going to share really quickly this page. I mean, it's not modeled after yours. We literally took your page and we're testing it basically with different branding, different colors, right? And once we have all the full data, we're going to work with you and figure out some ways that we can make this even easier for your students to launch these and not have to use other tools. But I'm not going to show the whole page, guys, but this is essentially what Cris is talking about. So this is built on Carrot. It's a landing page. It took away the navigation bar and it's got some good copy, a big button here that when you click it on mobile, you know, it looks even better on mobile. After they fill that out, it takes them to the step 2 form, but then it just has simple copy, right? As a good thing at the bottom. And this is working pretty darn well. And we're going to continue to come out with more data, more testing, make things like this even easier for you guys. But the cool nuance there I want you guys to recognize is the mindset that a seller has when they're searching for a solution, like Cris had said. If someone is going to Google and they're doing a Google search, like sell my house fast in this whatever city, or cash home buyers in whatever city, or those types of phrases that we find as common ones that home sellers search, they're in the searching mode, they're in the problem solving mode, and they're likely gathering information. And they're clicking buttons, they're looking at about pages, they're looking at reviews, testimonials. The mini site, the authority hub, really increases your lead to close ratio, lead to deal ratio big time, because they're predisposed to work with you by looking at that information. On the Facebook side, just reiterating what Cris had said, the person is not in the mood of searching for a solution. They're in the mood of looking at the dog picture from their friend, or scrolling up and down and looking at how everyone else's life is amazing. They think theirs is bad or whatever it is. And they've got this house situation. And like Cris said, they tap it being in the mindset of not trying to find a solution, but of just mindlessly flipping through likely. And then we have to get that information quickly. Then you can retarget them back to your mini site, your authority hub, send an email to them, things like that. So this is really cool stuff, man. I appreciate you sharing that with me, and we're excited to see the full data on the other end of this, make it even easier for you guys to do without having to.
Well, I also wanted to, I don't know if we can touch on, because obviously we've had a very long partnership. You know, I refer you guys a lot of business, and I wanted to maybe also kind of go over a couple of things on that, because one of the key components that you need is you need a website. And so I'm a big fan of and the reason I would say this, Trevor, I refer a lot of business to Trevor. Even if there was no financial relationship, I would still refer business to you, because I told you this on the call, you make my life easier. Because the thing is that, and I see this all the time, the real estate investors, they try and save a few bucks. Yep. They get the site and they show it to me, and they can't put a picture on it. There's so many things that are clunky with it. And I'm like, and I say to them, you spent already 2 weeks trying to massage this thing to look halfway decent. Just get a Carrot site and be done with it. So that's number one, right? Because at the end of the day, you're not a web developer. You need to be on the phone talking to the buyers and sellers. Now, the other thing is that I recommend everybody you need a site that shows credibility, and you need a good domain. So don't go out and get a domain that says XYZ Property LLC Inc. or whatever, because you're going to tell a seller that over the phone. They have no idea what you're talking about. My suggestion is you get a Carrot site and get a domain that clearly explains to somebody what you do, and that you only have to say it once. There's no spelling required or nothing like that. And the minute that you say that, they get what you do. So for example, if I have, let's suppose I sell your USA home today. If I call Trevor and say, hey, Trevor, this is Cris from sellyourusaHomeToday.com. What does it tell the seller? Okay, I get what you need, what you're doing. You have a website, so at least you must be legitimate. And maybe I can go there and see what else you got going on. All in that one sentence, as opposed to like all these crazy domains that I see and everything else. And so to me, I like the Carrot site. You want to be able to have a landing page that's separate for whatever traffic source, right? So if it's Facebook, you're going to have a different landing page, but you still have your main site, your Carrot site, which is that site that you're always referring to, that if a seller wants to get more credibility, they just want to know that it's the business card of today. Nobody asks you for a business card. You just tell them, this is Cris from sellyourusaHomeToday.com, and they're like, okay, got it. And that's it. So a public service announcement, get a good domain and get a carrot site. Spend the time and energy on actually talking with sellers and running ads, and that'll make your life a lot easier. And he's not paying me for that. I'm just telling you guys that just to save you a lot of grief and aggravation.
Dude, I love it, and I appreciate it, man. And Chris, guys and gals, Chris has been a Carrot customer for years and years. He's referred to us, I don't know how many customers through our affiliate program. We cut, I didn't look at the last one, but $60,000 to $70,000 a month in affiliate checks. And Chris is always up towards the top of that list. And if you guys are working with other investors or agents, you guys want to join our affiliate program and get paid to talk about Carrot, go to carrot.com/affiliate, join that. But what I want to do now is kind of shift towards the last minute or two. Chris, you shared so much awesome stuff here, and we were able to give the 101 going into the 201 version of this. You have like all of that 101 through 301 in your own training. And we have, like I said, lots of our customers who've gone through your training that came from you. Like they came through your training and then they came to Carrot, or sometimes vice versa. Where can people follow you if people are interested in wholesaling virtually across the country and using this model that you're using, leveraging their Carrot site? Where can they find out about how to get trained from you and everything?
The two best places are, number one, you can search for me on YouTube, and you'll get my YouTube channel, and you can watch. We have a lot. I do my best to make good content.
They're good, man. It's good. I love it. I love
entertaining it as well. Also, you can go to flipanywhere.com, and then we have also free training there that walks in more detail. Like if you wanted to see, hey, I'm curious to know what the ads look like and how does a few other things work. So we have a free training that will cover that, and then that way, we have had people. We just had somebody the other day that sent us a message saying that they made the first deal, $8,000, all from the free training. Okay, not even the paid training, and they're like, imagine if I would have paid. But I would say, get a flavor for things. Check out my YouTube channel. You can go to flipanywhere.com. There's some additional training there, and just watch the free training, and then at that point, then you can decide if it's something that hey, rocks your boat, and if you feel that's a good opportunity. And love to serve you. I've been in this business for a very long time. I have a great reputation, and I'll leave it with this. In this business, I would say that it's easy in this business for somebody to look at just a credit card transaction and just say, oh, another sale. But I always think about it because I think about my situation, because whenever somebody swipes the credit card, they buy a course, they attend a training. It's not just a credit card transaction. It's somebody's hopes, dreams, and aspirations of all the things they want to do in their life, the things that they want to do for other people in their life, whether it be their family, etc. And to me, when I always think about that, I kind of get a little bit choked up because I look at that as a sense of responsibility that I have to help that person, right? And so I say that because I have a great reputation in the business, and I've been here a long time, and only because we believe in just doing well for customers. And so, like I said, I recommend Trevor because I would recommend him even if there was no relationship. And, I just feel that, hey, he's doing great for his customers. And that's what we try to do as well. We try to do well for people so that people refer other people and say, hey, go to Chris. He's a good guy.
Dude, Chris, I appreciate you big time, man. And I want to double down on that in closing here, guys and gals. I've known Chris for a long time, known of Chris for about a decade, and really have communicated a little bit more this past number of years. But here's the deal, guys. Almost every, if not every virtual wholesaler out there who is teaching virtual wholesaling actually learned from Chris. Okay. Like all of them probably did, or they learned from someone who learned from Chris. And so Chris has been around a long time. I absolutely love the training you put out. Like I said, I fully back it. Guys, I want you to go do that, because what we're really in here at Carrot is we don't care where you do the deals. We don't care if you do them in your backyard. We just know that the internet is going to continue being the growing source of leads more and more as cold calling and text messaging, the ebb and flow outbound marketing that I talk about becomes harder and harder in different markets. The thing that continues to grow in demand is more and more people, like our grandparents and our parents, are picking up these phones now and using Facebook and using Google and things like that. And that's going to continue to grow. So we're here for you guys on all the online marketing side of it, and then partner with Chris on the training side of it, guys. Go to flipanywhere.com, go to YouTube, look up Chris, that's Cris Chico, Chico. And Chris, man, I appreciate the heck out of you, man. Keep shining your light, dude. Let's work together. Now that we open this, let's get you on some other trainings here, because I know this is going to open up so many questions where people are like, I want to do this, and leverage Carrot to do it. So we're going to get you back on and come up with some training together.
Yeah, anything I could do for you and your tribe, I'm more than happy to. So,
Awesome,
and again, I appreciate us being together today. So thank you.
Thank you. Guys and gals, if you guys can, go follow Cris, flipanywhere.com, follow him on YouTube also, and give us a rating and review on this episode of the Carrot Cast. Just go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, hit the 5-star on Apple Podcasts, and give us a review, even if you didn't like it. Tell me why, what we can do to improve. But we have over 300 5-star reviews over there. Let's get it up over 500. The more that we can get, the more that it spreads the message for others, so we can help people grow businesses of freedom and impact, and help you guys really impact your local community. So Cris, thank you for joining us today. Everyone on the other end of the line, thank you for joining us also. And go follow Cris, share the word, be a light in your own community, and we'll talk soon. Thank you all.